Hello everyone, welcome back. It's early in the morning and I couldn't sleep, so it's video time. This is, sorry, I think it was the mic. This is Kings and Generals, Rise of the Maya. I thought it was Mayans. Oh well, let's find out.
This video was sponsored by the Great Courses Plus. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com today to start your free trial. Deep in the Yucatan Peninsula lie ancient stone cities reclaimed by the jungle, where a calendar dominated lives, majestically feathered kings ruled like gods, and tall stone pyramids soared above the treetops. There in those jungles stand ancient stones, etched with dates and writings that tell the story of one of history's most fascinating and dynamic civilizations. These belong to the ancient Maya. The Maya have a 4,000-year-long history, something that is near impossible to realistically cover. In this video, we will look at who the...
I didn't realize they were 4,000 years. Wow.
Maya were, and the intellectual achievements that made them one of the most remarkable civilizations of their day. Unlike the other cradles of civilization, which mostly arose around fertile river valleys, the Maya realm in the Yucatan Peninsula, made up of parts of modern-day Guatemala, Belize, Mexico, Honduras, and El Salvador, was rather a hot limestone shelf that protrudes into the Caribbean, with few navigable rivers and thin soils, with only bees, ducks, and dogs as potentially domesticable animals. Despite receiving hundreds of centimeters of rain per year, this region is extremely prone to drought, as the rain falls between June and October and immediately seeps dozens of meters into the porous limestone landscape. The region is dotted with water-filled sinkholes and swamps, but they are too salty to drink from and cannot be used to water crops. It was remarked by a US-Mexican research team that the Maya environment was geochemically hostile and more resembled settlement on the Moon or Antarctica than most other terrestrial habitats. By filtering their salty water through limestone, making use of some freshwater caves, and building thousands of cisterns to collect rainwater, the Maya managed to maintain a safe supply of water. The Maya made their environment habitable, and its constant upkeep and management was essential to their existence. However, there were some geographic benefits to this environment, such as the abundance of limestone, an excellent building material, and obsidian, a volcanic glass as sharp as surgical steel. Now that we have established the setting in which the Maya developed, let's take a look at their history, which historians divide up into three parts: the pre-classic, the classic, and the post-classic. During
2000 BC, 2100, 900, 950 to 15. Wow. Wow. That's a long history.
In the pre-classic period, the Maya emerged as a distinct and unique group in Mesoamerica. Between 2000 BC and 300 AD, we see city-states begin to emerge under the rule of divine kings and queens, transforming the area into something very similar to ancient Greece, along with a similar amount of Shakespearean drama and conflict. It is during the pre-classic that we see the rise of city-states such as El Mirador, an enormous city-state with a population that could have totaled around 250,000 people. El Mirador was home to El Tigre and La Danta, pyramids comparable in size to those at Giza. Unlike the Aztecs or Inca, the Maya never formed a united polity. There was never a Maya empire, but rather dozens of unique and competing city-states, united by a common culture, language family, and reliance on maize. By 300 AD, the Maya entered what we consider to be their classic period. An explosion of activity commenced as powerful city-states began to arise, along with massive irrigation projects, beautiful stone monuments, and gorgeous plazas. The Maya writing system became widespread, and it allows us to read about the Maya in their own words. Tikal, one of the most powerful classic Maya city-states, has dozens of examples of this writing. By reading the stelae located across Tikal, we can learn of such rulers as Yekin Khan Kawil, or Sun Sky Rain. He ascended to the throne on the 8th of December 734 AD, a date we are certain of because we can rely on the advanced Maya calendar dates inscribed at the site. Tikal, like most Maya cities, was constructed around plazas, the center of the city where the main ceremonial places, temples, pyramids, and bull courts were. Under the rule of Yekin Khan Kawil, one of the most famous structures of Tikal, the Temple of the Great Jaguar, was built. This massive 47-meter tall pyramid was dedicated to his father, who was buried within it. It soared above the treetops and could be seen from across the city. So, how did the Maya construct these incredible stone structures? Maya architects had invented a concrete-like fill. They piled up rubble and limestone-rich mud to form an incredibly durable foundation. The foundation, which initially appeared rough and ugly, was then covered with another invention, Maya stucco. This was a white plaster made of limestone-covered rubble with a smooth finish that could easily be moulded into works of art. Once this process was complete, the pyramid or structure was usually painted a bright red colour. Using this method, the Maya could continuously build taller and taller structures by simply covering the old pyramid in rubble and then plastering over it again. Thus, over thousands of years, Maya cities constantly grew by paving over themselves. From the top of these pyramids, rituals and ceremonies were carried out in full view of the city they towered above. Priests painted a bright blue colour, and kings, or ehawas as the Maya called them, would carry out these vital ceremonies, many of which needed to involve the most sacred substance in the Maya universe, blood. In the Maya worldview, the gods created everything and therefore demanded something in return. This debt to the gods could be paid in many ways. Their dancing, burning of incense, and even elegant words could be offered, but blood acted as the ultimate payment. Unlike the later Aztecs, the Maya did not rely heavily on mass human sacrifice. Instead, the most common offering was to pierce oneself, bleed into some paper, and then burn that as an offering.
I'd rather do that.
Let's talk about BetterHelp.
If you ever feel anxious, depressed, stressed, overwhelmed by the world being very much on fire.
Let's talk about BetterHelp. Oh, it's over. Guess we can't.
However, sometimes the gods required more. It was vital that the gods were provided with enough energy by way of sacrifice, or else the Maya world would cease to exist. As human life was considered the most sacred and precious thing in the world, it therefore meant that a human life was the most powerful offering. Commoners were rarely, if ever, sacrificed, as they were not seen as worthy enough for the gods.
Can you imagine if you were to roll through on the day that they start doing this? You're just like, oh my gosh, look at this civilization. And then you look up there and you see somebody being hacked apart. All you're thinking of is, okay, well, I picked the wrong day, didn't I? But apparently, no, you didn't. I would always just keep being a commoner.
When a human sacrifice was offered, it was almost always a captured noble or king, as they were highly prized by the gods.
Wow, kings? Nobles and kings. Holy sharts.
Beheading was the common way of carrying out this sacrifice.
Wow.
Located near these pyramids, there was almost always a bull court. The bull game played by the Maya and other Mesoamericans was an intense sport.
Yeah,
The
basketball.
people watched these spectacles with a fanaticism that could have rivaled or even surpassed how the people of Constantinople would have watched chariot races. The game took place in a massive stone court and was played with a 3 to 4 kilogram rubber ball. The exact specifics of the game are unknown, but we can piece together that the goal seems to have been for players to use only their hips, upper arms and knees to move the ball in the air, with the goal of making the other team drop the ball or pushing past a certain defensive line. The ball game was so important to the Maya that it had a central role in the Maya religion. The gods themselves would play it against each other. Maize, as the staple crop of the region, also had divine status, and was even central to the Maya mythological origin story. As recorded in the great epic, the Popol Vuh of the Quique Maya, the universe began as nothing. Into this great void, the two gods Tepu and Cuucumate spoke the world into existence, creating all the animals and plants. But as these could not speak, the gods' need to be worshipped could not be fulfilled. Thus they created a race of men from mud, who promptly collapsed back into mud. Then a race of wooden men, but these proved to be unintelligent and so were destroyed by a great flood. Finally, the gods formed humans out of maize.
Why don't they just destroy them with giant termites? Terrible.
Dough, and these proved capable of worship and sacrifice. During the classical period, which lasted from 300 AD to 900 AD, more cities than ever had booming populations, some ranging in the tens of thousands. There is estimated to have been between 5 and 13 million Maya inhabiting the Yucatan. Cities like Tikal may have had populations of up to 90,000 in their urban cores. It is during this period that the Maya nobility became much more organized. We see elegantly feathered ahaus ruling over large and complex royal courts. Priests, servants, courtiers, dancers, princes, scribes and generals all vied for the ahaus' attention. The nobility would have looked bizarre to us, as it was common for the Maya elites to intricately tattoo themselves, create intentional scar patterns, file their teeth into different shapes along with carving holes into their incisors in order to place jade in them, and they practiced a form of skull deformation which elongated their foreheads. All of these things were done to make the nobility stand out and signify their social class. The Maya also considered that to be genuinely beautiful. The Maya scribes wrote thousands of bark books in their hieroglyphic script. All but 4 have been lost to time and the flames of the Inquisition. So it is the hundreds of remaining stelae spread out across the Yucatan that we must rely on to piece together Maya history, and it is similar to trying to understand French history only by reading their monuments and plaques. However, the Maya calendar dates usually inscribed on these stelae have allowed us to accurately date many events and reigns in Maya history. We know, for example, that one of the greatest Maya kings, Pakal the Great, was born on the 21st of March 603 and reigned from July 615 to the 26th of August 683. The Maya could only leave these exact dates for us because of their advanced Maya mathematics and calendar systems. They used a base 20 counting system with only 3 symbols: a dot for 1, a bar for 5, and a stylized shell symbol for 0. And this system worked vertically, unlike our own number system. Arguably their greatest intellectual feat was the invention of the 0. The mathematician Tobias Danzig said that the discovery of 0 was one of the greatest single accomplishments of the human race. True 0 wouldn't appear in Europe until the 12th century, but it was invented in the Americas on Maya carvings between 32 BC and 357 AD. The Maya, along with their Mesoamerican contemporaries like the Olmec and Zapotec, believed that movements of celestial bodies, such as the Sun, Moon, and especially Venus, could influence their daily lives. In order to track these, the Maya had to continuously watch the skies and develop a calendar capable of keeping track. Oddly enough, the Mesoamericans developed 3 calendars: a solar calendar of 365 days, a sacred calendar of 260 days, and the famous long count calendar that tracked every day uniquely from the 11th of August 3114 BC. Using these calendars, the Maya could calculate dates millions of years into the past or future, and thus track the movements of planets and celestial bodies over long periods of time. The farthest date calculated by the Maya was a period of 23,040,000,000 days, which is about 63 million years.
Wow.
While the Maya were intellectual giants of their time, politics, greed, and ambition still dominated the lives of the upper classes. These will come to a bloody peak in the next episode, when 2 Maya superpowers will smash against each other in the Great Maya Cold War. When we create these videos, we often use the series.
Wow. This is interesting, just like the Incan Empire type stuff, the rise of the Incan. That was I didn't expect that, and this is just as good. Wow. Well, I'm gonna end this here. I think I'm gonna jump into the Civil War. Yeah, this is good. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, because I'm gonna kind of check things like this out. Still doing other things, Frederick the Great and Caesar and stuff, but yeah. Well, I'm gonna go and end this here. Like and subscribe, and thanks for the support. Have a good day. Have a good night.